Crank it up and piss off the neighbors. You got your radio locked on to the hottest station.
iPower 1, New York City. Your home for the iPower Evening Show.
Express your mind. Express your mind.
Good evening, everyone. DeMarco, Ricky, and Raphael in the building. This is Express Your Mind Wednesday on the IPES. All right, like we said, we're going to be doing Top 5 Wednesdays here on the show for the time being. Tonight, give us your take. Your top 5 comedians of all time from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today. Let me start off with number 1, Red Fox. Number 2, Richard Pryor. Number 3, LaWanda Page, a.k.a. Aunt Esther from Sanford & Son. Yes, she did stand-up comedy, and she was funny as hell.
Yes, she was.
Number 4, Steve Harvey. Despite of some black folks think of him, Steve Harvey to me is funny doing stand-up.
Right.
And number 5, Chris Rock. Ricky?
Number 1, Richard Pryor. Number 2, Red Fox. Number 3, yes, Bernie Mac.
God rest his soul.
Number 4, Chris Rock. And number 5, D.L. Hughley.
Raphael, were there any Puerto Rican stand-up comedians that we knew back in the day?
Yeah, hell yeah. A dude named Freddie Prinze Sr. from Chico and the Man.
That's
right.
right.
You forgot, you dumbass.
All right, so I forgot.
You not remember Freddie Prinze?
But he's not one of my top 5. My top 5 stand-up comedians are number 1, Chris Tucker. Number 2, George Lopez. Got to put a Latino in there somewhere to represent.
Of course.
Number 3, Chris Rock. Number 4, Martin Lawrence. And number 5, Marlon Wayans. I don't care what nobody says. That guy is a nut.
Yes.
Marlon.
Marlon Wayans is definitely a nut.
Funny
who you
as
tell?
hell.
All right, who are your top 5 stand-up comedians of all time? From the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today. It's Express Your Mind. Let's go to the phone lines.
Express your mind. Express your mind. Express your mind.
All right, going to our regular callers.
Like as always.
Clarence, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Clarence.
Hey, what up, Ricky? What up, Raphael?
Hey,
what up,
Clarence,
DeMarco?
what's going on, brother?
What's up there, bruh?
Hey, what up, Clarence?
I got my top 5. Number 1, Richard Pryor. Number 2, Red Fox. Number 3, Eddie Murphy. Number 4, Chris Rock. And number 5, Bernie Mac.
All right, thanks, Clarence. Stacey J, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Stace.
Yo, Stacey J, represent hip hop.
Stace, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what up, bruh?
Stacy!
Yo, I got my top 5. Yo, number 1, Richard Pryor. Number 2, Red Fox. Number 3, Bill Cosby. Number 4, Chris Rock. And number 5, Jamie Foxx. You feel what I'm saying?
Great pick.
All right, thanks, Stace. Pete Sonny, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Pete Sonny.
Black Cat Pete Sonny on the loose.
Hey, Pete Sonny, my brother, what's going on?
What's up, Pete?
Hey, what up, Pete?
I'm going all the way back when it comes to the top 5 comedians of all time.
Let's hear it,
Let
brother.
me start off with number 1, Red Fox. Number 2, Richard Pryor. Number 3, Bill Cosby. Number 4, Paul Mooney. And number 5, J. Anthony Brown. That's my top 5, brother.
Thanks, Pete Sonny. Stefan Mason, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Stefan. Keeping it old school.
Hey, what's going on, my brothers?
Hey, Stefan, what's going on,
What's
brother?
up there,
Hey,
bruh?
what up, Stefan?
All right, here's my top 5. Number 1, Red Fox. Number 2, Richard Pryor. Number 3, Paul Mooney. Number 4, Eddie Murphy. And number 5, Steve Harvey.
I like that.
Yes, sir, brother.
Thanks, Stefan. Sandy, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Sandy.
Hey, DeMarco. Hey, Ricky. Hey, Raphael.
Hey,
That's my
Sandy,
baby.
what's going on?
Sandy!
Hey, what up, Sandy?
Give us your top 5.
Yeah, I got my top 5 right here, honey.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, here's my top 5. Number 1, Red Fox. Number 2, Richard Pryor. Number 3, Miles Mabley.
Nice.
Number 4, LaWanda Page as Aunt Esther from Sanford & Son.
Like that.
And number 5, Steve Harvey.
Thanks, Sandy. Not everybody remembers Moms Mabley, who was one of the black queens of comedy with LaWanda Page, a.k.a. Aunt Esther from Sanford & Son,
Right.
who was childhood best friends with Red Fox. True story.
Yes, it was, bruh.
And play some Al Melvin the Blue Notes tomorrow.
Yeah, yes, Sandy, most
never
definitely.
fails.
We will play Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes tomorrow.
Okay,
on Time
bye.
Tunnel Thursday. Alberto, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Alberto.
What's up, DeMarco? What's up, Ricky?
Hey,
Jojo.
Alberto, what's up?
there,
Hey,
bruh?
amiguito. What up,
I
dude?
got my top 5 comedians right here. Number 1, Chris Tucker. Number 2, George Lopez.
Yeah.
Number 3, Brandon T. Jackson. Number 4, Kevin Hart. And number 5, Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon, a stand-up comedian?
Well, Ricky, he does Wildin' Out on MTV, so it is being close to being stand-up comedy.
Right.
Well, he's not an actual stand-up comedian, but he does one on Wildin' Out with the other young comedians. Right. Kind of look like stand-up comedy.
Right. Thanks, Alberto. Mike, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Mike.
How are ya?
Mike, how you doing?
Hey, what up, Mike?
What up, dude?
All right, I got my top 5 comedians of all time. All right, number 1, Dennis Miller. Number 2, Bill Maher.
Of course.
Number 3, Rush Limbaugh.
What?
Rush Limbaugh.
Number 4, Ted Nugent.
Wait a minute.
And number 5, the Three Stooges.
Wait a minute.
Wait a
I
think they're funny.
You know what? Goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.
Have a nice night.
Goodbye.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't know Ted Nugent and Rush Limbaugh, 2 of the world's most racist whores against black people, were stand-up comedians.
By the way, Mike, the Three Stooges were not stand-up comedians. They were actors acting a fool.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I like the Three Stooges.
Right.
But that was more than 5 people, Mike.
Felicia Renee from Randolph, Massachusetts writes, her top 5 comedians of all time are number 1, Richard Pryor. Number 2, Chris Rock. Number 3, Dave Chappelle. Number 4, Bill Cosby. And number 5, Martin Lawrence. As usual, great pick, Felicia. Rayshawn, you're next on iPower 1 FM. Go ahead, Rayshawn.
Hey, what up, DeMarco? What up, Ricky? What up, Raphael?
Rayshawn, my brother, what's going on?
What's going on there, bro?
Hey, what up, Rayshawn?
It seems like Mike loves his favorite GOP comedians like Rush Limbaugh, Ted Nugent, an extreme racist conservative who threatened President Obama on numerous occasions and doesn't get no penalty for threatening a once-sitting black president. Proves once again white privilege exists in this country, thinking Bill Maher can call himself a house nigga, that it is freely to use that word meant for black people. Like I said, nobody white should be using that word, whether it ends with an ER, nor any of our black people should be using that word that ends with an A.
Right.
Moving right along. My top 5 comedians of all time would have to be number 1, Dick Gregory. Before he went political for our people and still adding comedy on a different level, speaking the truth to our people.
Like that.
Number 2, Richard Pryor, hands down. Number 3, Red Fox, another favorite. Number 4, Paul Mooney, who him and Richard Pryor wrote some of the episodes of Sanford and Son, but never got credit for it. We all know how that went.
Oh, of course.
And number 5, Bill Cosby. Now, my brothers, Cosby is being framed over this so-called sexual harassment allegations put against him.
Right.
They have nothing on this brother. These greedy-ass women that are after him are just after his money.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever money he has left out of this brother. You feel me?
I feel you on that one.
The thing is, they're trying to find fake-ass evidence. They're trying to find some so-called evidence that does not exist just to lock up this brother. And I still watch The Cosby Show regardless.
Yes.
And I'm a huge supporter of this man all the way, regardless.
Me too.
Peace, my brothers.
Thanks, Rayshawn. And believe it or not, you got some ride or die Cosby fans who said Cosby is innocent.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure that he drugged and raped these women because none of us here was there when it took place.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah, right.
did he had consensual sex with some of these women?
Of course he
yes,
did.
he
Of
did.
course.
Did he cheated on his wife, Camille Cosby?
Without
yes,
a doubt.
he did.
Seriously.
However, she stood by her husband thick and thin.
Yep.
Now, they're going to retry him for a crime that happened years ago.
Which makes no
Sad.
sense.
For real.
Ricky, what's the top 5 stand-up comedians we got thus far in the lead that callers and text people chosen?
Red Fox comes in at number 9. Richard Pryor comes in at number 10. Bill Cosby comes in at number 5. Paul Mooney comes in at number 4. Steve Harvey comes in at number 3. Chris Rock comes in at number 5. And Chris Tucker comes in at number 3.
Red Fox and Richard Pryor are the top 2 in the lead right now. Look,
Absolutely.
I can watch Sanford and Son all day with him and Arnesta.
Right? Even though Red Fox was the star, there is no Sanford and Son without LaWanda Page.
No
They
way.
were both funny as hell on that show.
Exactly.
And they were both nasty as hell in their stand-up comedy.
Oh, yeah.
I fell out of my seat a few times after hearing what they're saying.
Oh, you ain't never lied.
Incoming message.
All right, text your mind here on the EYM. Rhonda from New Rochelle, New York writes, my top 5 are Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Bill Cosby, Eddie Murphy, and Chris Rock. Miss Trina 44 from the ATL writes, my top 5 are Chris Tucker, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Martin Lawrence, and Richard Pryor.
Incoming message.
Aisha from Queens, New York writes, my top 5 are Steve Harvey, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Richard Pryor, and D.L. Hughley.
Camilla from Brooklyn, New York writes, my top 5 gotta be LaWanda Page, aka Aunt Esther, the old Cheryl Underwood, Moms Mabley, Monique, and Adele Givens. She picked all the females.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
None whatsoever. Paulito from Long Island, New York writes, my top 5 would have to be George Lopez, D.L. Hughley, Chris Rock, Chris Tucker, and Kevin Hart. Latasha, 84, from Baltimore and Maryland writes, I gotta go with the old Cheryl Underwood before she landed on the talk. Monique, Chris Rock, Bernie Mac, and D.L. Hughley.
Nordagata, 85, from El Bronx, New York writes, my top 5 are George Lopez, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, Chris Tucker, and Marlon Wayans.
Incoming message.
Amy Stewart from Manchester, New Hampshire writes, my top 5 are Robin Williams, George Carlin, Red Fox, Bill Cosby, and Eddie Murphy.
Incoming message.
And Alberto, 84, from Providence, Rhode Island writes, my top 5 stand-up comedians are George Lopez, Chris Rock, Marlon Wayans, Chris Tucker, and Kevin Hart.
Now, there's some other stand-up comedians out there like Earthquake, Bruce, J. Anthony Brown. I'm surprised nobody didn't pick some more, or Big Mama Thea. Remember her?
Oh, yeah.
What about Jamie Foxx?
Stacey J already mentioned Jamie Foxx.
He did.
Mike Epps and John Witherspoon wasn't mentioned. Kim Whitley, she's another stand-up comedian.
Did anyone thought that Jimmy J.J. Walker was funny as a stand-up comedian?
Hell no.
I didn't think
he was funny on Good Times, you know, with the catchphrase Dynamite and some other lines, but not as funny as a stand-up comedian, in my opinion.
Right. And when you talk about the female stand-up comedians of LaWanda Page and Moms Mabley, they were the original queens of comedy.
Yes, they
were. They paved the way for Monique, Cheryl Underwood, Adele Givens, some more, Kim Whitley and them.
Don't forget about the original kings of comedy.
Which one?
I'm not talking about Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer.
You're talking way back.
Another one that hasn't been mentioned, Bernie Mac and D.L. Hughley.
Right.
Guy Torrey was the original part of the original kings of comedy.
I heard.
Those are the ones I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the original kings of comedy during the 70s, where Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Bill Cosby, and Paul Mooney, they were the original kings that paved the way for Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, Chris Tucker, and them.
Professor Dick Gregory was a stand-up comedian in the 60s.
Yes, he was.
Long before he went political, talking about black history in this country.
A genius.
I mean, he still uses his comedic skills in his truth, talking to black folks. That still gets us laughing, speaking the truth. God bless Dick Gregory.
Exactly.
All right, so Ricky, give us the top final results.
Red Fox comes in at number 11. Richard Pryor comes in at number 13. Bill Cosby comes in at number 8. Paul Mooney remains at number 4. Steve Harvey comes in at number 5. Chris Rock comes in at number 11. Chris Tucker comes in at number 6. Let me give you all the rest of the list. D.L. Hughley comes in at number 5. Bernie Mac comes in at 3. George Lopez comes in at 6. Martin Lawrence comes in at 3. Marlon Wayans comes in at 1. And Eddie Murphy comes in at 5.
So Red Fox, Richard Pryor, and Chris Rock are the top 3 stand-up comedians chosen.
Absolutely. Even though I like all of them that made the black audience laugh, Red Fox, along with Richard Pryor, made me laugh the most. Even some female comedians like LaWanda Page.
Yes.
Moms Mabley was good too back in her day, back in her prime.
And like I said, LaWanda Page and Moms Mabley were the original queens of comedy in the 60s and 70s.
Yes, they were.
Long before some more. Adele Givens, Cheryl Underwood, Monique, or even Kim Whitley, or Big Mama Thea, just to name a few. Don't get me wrong about Whoopi from The View, who was one time a stand-up comedian during the 80s, but she was not that funny.
No.
Nor Jimmy J.J. Walker, in my opinion.
Eddie Murphy's brother, Charlie Murphy, who he lost this year, I thought he was funny in CB4 with Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Thank God for Richard Pryor, Red Fox. God rest their souls for paving the way for current and future stand-up comedians, making black people laugh throughout the years.
Absolutely.
Still watching to this day.
Absolutely. And big round of applause for John Witherspoon, Don D.C. Curry, Mike Epps, just to name a few, who are still doing their thing as stand-up comedians. Even J. Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
Watch out there now.
Now on Steve Harvey
So what's the lesson of the story in all this?
The lesson of the story is whatever or whomever who's bothering you or upset you so much that you just want a little laughter in your heart, turn on some TV and watch some stand-up comedy to relieve some of that pain and anger that's building up inside, of letting off some steam. Laughter is the best medicine to calm your anger and settle down.
Lesson learned. Thanks, Raphael. Shout-outs to iPower2 on our YouTube channel. Keyword, iPower1Nation. Thank you for listening to us. iPower 98.9 is now New York City. New York City. Subscribe now to our YouTube channel. Keyword iPower One Nation. Listen to our shows weeknights now in the tri-state area. Take us anywhere. Listen online or on app. Listen on your Android phone, iPhone, or iPad. Listen now in the NYC. Go to iPower1FM.com for 98.9.